What's up guys, today we're going to be learning how to make some buttons for our engine. This is going to be an extension off of ThinMatrix's game programming / opengl programming tutorials. So let's go. First of all, I would like to say that this video is meant to just get you the basic idea of working with buttons and collision detection with 2D objects, in our case buttons, with mouse positions, sorry. Hold on. So let's go ahead and make a buttons package. And let's create a new interface. And we want to add a couple of methods, one being a onClick method, one being onHover method, onStartHover rather, one being onStopHover, one being a while hovering. We want a show with a list of GUI texture. We want a GUI or a hide list, and that should be all for now. Yeah, that should be all. Actually, we want to take an I button here, an I button here, and here. Also here. Okay, now we want to make an abstract button class. And we want to have a private GUI texture. We also want a private, forgot one method, or two. The method will be called play hover animation with a float, which we will call scale factor. And the final method is reset scale. I think it's pretty obvious what that's gonna do. So now we want a private vector 2f scale and we want to make a constructor. We want to take in a loader. We want to take in a string, and we want to take in a position, and we want to take in a scale. Okay. Control-Shift-O to auto-import everything. And now we actually want to rename this to scale. Okay, and now we want to go GUI texture equals a new GUI texture, which will take in a texture which we can get from our loader, and texture, position, and scale. And then we also want to set our original scale equal to scale. Perfect. And now we want a method called update, which actually I lied, we need to have that in here. Well, we don't need to, but to make it nice and pretty. Okay. And now here, oh, forgot to implement okay. So now we want to calculate if the normalized mouse positions, which I'll have to work out here in a second. Alright, just give me a second. Well, it'll be instant, but let me just work out these coordinates. Okay, so here we are in a display manager class, and we need to add one method in here. Let's call it get normalized mouse coordinates, import that, and we want to go say float normalized x equals -1 1.0f plus 2.0f times a cast to a float of the mouse.getX divided by, import that, that's a problem. Okay, so mouse.getX cast to a float of display.getWidth. So that's our normalized x, and if we go ahead and duplicate, okay. Oops, if we go ahead and write get normalized y, and then we type 1 and -2 and y, we will have our, actually, we will have our normalized y. So now we just return that in a new vector. Okay. Oops. So, okay. So now back in here, inside our button, we want to, inside our update method, first create two booleans, one called isHidden and one called isHovering. Okay, so now in here we want to go if is not basically we only want to do this check if it is visible. We want to get the current location of the GUI texture, and we want to set that equal that, and we want to go ahead and get the scale And we also, finally, want to go ahead and get our mouse coordinates. Okay. So now for this calculation, we want to write if location dot y plus scale dot y is less than negative mouse coordinates dot y and location dot y minus scale dot y. What's the problem? Okay, and scale dot y is less than negative mouse coordinates dot y and if location dot x plus scale dot x is greater than mouse coordinates dot x and location dot x minus scale dot x is less than mouse coordinates dot x, then let me just get rid of this. Then we will successfully be hovering on top of the button, so we can go ahead and write our overrided method while hovering. We can pass in this because we are implementing that method, that class, that interface, and we can go ahead and write if is not hovering if we aren't hovering, nope, is hovering equals true, and then we can call our start hovering method, which is this method. Basically now it's checking if we already are hovering. If we aren't hovering, it's going to set hovering to true, and then it's going to call the onStart hovering method. If we are already hovering, then we want to say so if we're not hovering, we want to say is hovering equals false. I'm going to call stop hovering, which is on stop hovering, with this pass through. Okay, so now we want to, while we're still inside here, we want to say while mouse.next if mouse.is button down 0, so that's our left mouse button, we want to call our onClick method and pass in this class. So basically now it's just going to be checking actually I did this wrong. This wants to go here. Sorry about that. Because if we had it the other way, it would just do a continuous loop, checking and then not checking, and everything would be getting called instantly. So this way it's going to only call this on stop hovering when it actually stops hovering. So now we're just going to go if is hovering, then we want to do this. Okay. basically now we just want to fill in some of the other methods. One of those methods is the show method. And this will take in a list of GUI textures. So we want to say if is not, if is hidden, and if GUI texture list dot contains GUI texture, then we want to go GUI texture list dot remove GUI texture. We just want to remove it from the list altogether, and then we also want to set is hidden to true. I did this backwards. It's actually, if it's not hidden, then we want to add is hidden equals false. Okay, so now basically we want to do the reverse for the hide. So if it is in the list, and it is hidden, and it is not hidden, we'll set is hidden to true, and we want to remove it from the list. Okay. Now, one more thing is this play hover animation, and this, okay. Now, the reason we have this reset scale method in here is because, and the reason we have this original scale method in here is because we want to be able to go GUI texture.setScale. Actually, we need to go into our GUI texture method. If you're wondering how I just got here that quickly, you just press Control and click on whatever object you want to go to, and then we want to add public void set scale vector 2f scale this dot scale equals scale. Okay, now we want to go ahead and write GUI texture dot set scale original scale. And finally, we want to go public void play hover animation. What we want to do is actually play a hover animation. So the way we want to do this is go GUI texture dot set scale to a new vector 2f of scale original scale dot x plus scale factor and original scale dot y plus scale factor. So that's basically it for this class. So now we want to go into our main game loop, and just for consistency I'm going to add a new one of these right here, and we want to call it button testing here. So we want to make a new button, and we'll call this button path. Because I'm just going to be using this, well, no, I'm just going to be using this path right here as my texture. Equals a new abstract and we want to take in not sure, that's not the right abstract button. So I'm going to import our abstract button. I'm going to set it to a new abstract button. And we want to take in our loader. Then we want to take in our texture, which we said was going to be our path, just for testing purposes. We're going to take a new position, which we're going to do in the center of the screen. And then we want to have a new vector 2f, 0.2f, 0.2f for the scale. Okay. Before we forget, we want to go in here and go ahead and say button updating. Before we test this, I'd like to say that if you guys want me to, I can make a whole playlist of tutorials on like GUIs and text fields and custom rectangles and all that kind of stuff, and where basically there can be custom screens and you can do whatever you want with them. For example, like in Minecraft, where you press escape, there's like a list of buttons and there's all sorts of GUIs. We can design our own types of GUIs and make our own system if we want to. But basically what we want to do is right now, just to get this button working, is we want to do the buttons path button update, so that it checks every single frame for our mouse being hovered over it. And before we forget, we also want to go path button show in our GUI textures, so basically we can see it. So here we'll just go button.play hover animation by a scale of 0.092f, and then when we stop hover, we want to go button.reset scale. So now let's go ahead and run this and see what we have. Wait, first of all, it's not quite the way I want to do that. I want to go ahead and say, actually, that should be fine. That should be fine. No, hold on. I want to say if our okay, so while keyboard dot next, so basically we don't get repeating keys, if keyboard dot is key down, keyboard dot key underscore, we'll just say escape, if we actually want to go back in here and we want to add a getter for our is hidden, so we're going to go public boolean is hidden, turn is hidden, and we want to go back to our main game loop and say if path button dot is hidden, path button dot show GUI textures, else we go path button dot hide GUI textures. Okay. Let me check out why this isn't working. Alright, so basically the problem was that check for seeing if the list contained it wasn't working for whatever reason. So basically you just remove it and everything should be working, and there we go. So if we press escape, we get this quote-unquote button, and if we hover over it, it is calling our method. So basically it's getting hovered and then it's getting the stop hover, and if we want to see if it's being clicked on, we can go ahead and go system out.println button was clicked.